Okay, so let's see if I have any of my banners here. I do. Okay. All right, so we have just like a minute or so while I get everything set up. I'm going to get everything set up. We have a minute until we actually do need to go live. So talk amongst yourselves. There. I hope that y'all can hear me okay. Let me see what's going on here to see if it'll even let me do it. I'm not going to worry about that right now. All right, let me just check one more thing really quickly here. Let's do that. I don't see anything. Okay, that's not helpful. Let's see if I can at least get the background going for y'all. Give me just a second. We might just have to do an overlay today. I prefer a nice little background, but that's okay. Let's see if we can just do... Now you can't see my face. Let me see if I can get this background going. Give me just a second, y'all. We'll be starting in just one more minute. I don't think it's gonna work. That's okay. Let me just check this one last thing here. Oh, you know what? Let me check settings. It's been a minute since I've had to do this, but that's okay. Hey, we're in business. I did it, y'all. Yay! I did it. That's amazing. Okay, all right. Okay, so there is one last thing we do not have, but that's okay. Technical difficulties. All right. So let's just get started with today's book selection. But before we do that, hello everybody. It's been a long time. I hope y'all can hear me. I cannot tell if you cannot hear me. I hope that you can. Things are a tiny bit glitchy, but that's okay. That's okay. We're here. We're gonna have a great time. I do believe my mic is on. Everything seems to be going great. Okay. So welcome to Lovely's Digital Book Club, the only digital book club in PCCLD. This is the place to be. Hello, live stream viewers. Hello, replay viewers. Hello, or welcome if you are new to the Digital Book Club. So I'm going to briefly explain how this works because we get a lot of questions about that. We do not meet in person. This is so that people who have different time schedules or whatnot can still enjoy a book club at their own convenience. I do have hold on, I'm going to put it right here. A newsletter that you need to sign up for. Just follow that link. You can sign up for the newsletter, and it'll tell you all the books that we are reading this year, when the live streams are going to happen, and how to participate on Facebook. So I'm going to tell you that part now. So I announced the book that we are reading at the last week of the month. I announced the next week or the next month's book, and I send out the newsletter. Then I do check-ins weekly on Facebook, and we do the first third of the book. We check in, we chit chat about it, we talk about it, and people respond there. We chit chat about what part of the book we're at, what we like about it so far, different things that we like about the author, themes that we may have noticed. With the newsletter, I also send over a author background, things like interviews, video clips, things like that. Discussion questions and read alike. So if you like the book that we are currently reading, you might want to read books in the same genre. So I include all of that. So that's basically how the book club works. So you definitely want to sign up for the newsletter, because that's where you're going to get all of the greatest detail, what's happening. And then also you'll get to help pick what we're going to be reading for next year as well. All right. So that's that. So what book are we reading? Let me get rid of one of these banners, because to be quite honest, they can be a tad distracting. We can get rid of that one too. There. Now it's not distracting. Okay. So the book, I'm super, super excited. The book that we're reading today is, oh no, you can't see it because it's got blue in it. Sorry, y'all. It's Convenience Store Woman by Sayaka Murata. This book is amazing. Let me see. Hold on, because I bet I could share a screen. Hold on 1 second. Let me see if I can find a picture of this real quick. No, we don't want that. I wanted y'all to be able to see the cover of the book. And to be quite honest, you don't necessarily need to see it. I just like the cover of the book. Let me see. Boop. All right, let me pop back over here and see if I cannot share the screen. Hold on a minute. Nope, we're not going to do that. What is this? Present slides. Share screen. Share screen. There are so many screens open. Let me make sure that I'm sharing the right one. Let's see. Okay, so we're going to say share screen. And then I'm good. I'm glad it asked me. All right, share. All right, so this is what the cover of the book looks like. It's the exact one that we have here at PCCLD. It's Convenience Store Woman by Sayaka Murata. Okay, now let me see. Oh, look, there I am. Oh, cool. Look at that. It put me in the corner. I'm not trying to send y'all to Amazon. I was just trying to find a quick, there we go, a quick screen share, a quick screen grab, if you will. So that is the name of the book. So let's tell you a little bit about Miss Murata, because I don't know her like that. And there we go. And you shouldn't be calling people by their first names without their permissions. That's not cool. All right, so let me just read a little bit about her. Sayaka Murata, you'd say it Murata Sayaka if you were saying it in Japanese, is one of the most exciting and up-and-coming writers in Japan today. She herself still works part-time in a convenience store, which gave her the inspiration to write Convenience Store Woman. In Japanese, it's called Kobini Nigen. And she does not work at a convenience store anymore because overzealous fans ruined it for her, so she can't work there no more. She debuted in 2003 with Junyu, which is breastfeeding, which won the Gunzo Prize for New Writers. In 2009, she won the Noma Prize for New Writers with Jin Ito no Uta, which is Silver Song in English. And in 2013, the Mishima Yukio Prize for Shiro Oro no Machi no Sono Hon no Taion no, which translates into of bones, of body, heat, of whitening city. Convenience Store Woman won the 2016 Akutagawa, Akutagawa Award. Murata has 2 short stories published in English. Both were translated by Ginny Tapley Takamori. The first one is Lover on the Breeze, Ruptured Fictions of the Earthquake. Let's see what else we got here. 1 second. Okay, so that's that. So basically, this is the story of a young woman named Keiko Furukura. And we start to learn a little bit about Keiko, and they describe her as unusual and oddball. A lot of the reviews of this book talked about that. We'll get to that later because I didn't like the way they were talking about Keiko. But anywho, so she is a convenience store woman. Basically, hang on, let me just read the back. She's an unusual person, someone who has never fit in. But when she takes a job at the Smile Mart, she finally finds peace and purpose in her daily tasks. But there's huge pressure on Keiko to pursue a career, find a husband, and she feels forced to take desperate action in order to please the people around her instead of herself. Is there room in this normal world for someone strange as Keiko? So, in the beginning, we start off at Keiko when she's just a little girl in school. And she has a lot of trouble fitting in there because she doesn't understand social cues. She doesn't understand how to always interact with people in a way that they find comforting or quote unquote normal. And so she ends up committing several social faux pas, if you will, because of the way she sees things, the way her brain is hardwired, basically. I shouldn't, you know what? Let me not put the blame on Keiko. She doesn't understand social cues. And so because she doesn't, life is harder for her. I don't want to say that it is her fault because the world's not set up for somebody like her. In this story, they don't come out and say it, but if you read the reviews and you learn about Sayaka Murata, Keiko's autistic. Keiko is autistic, and that's why she seems to struggle. And I'm saying seem because if you had the pleasure of finishing this book, y'all know ain't nothing wrong with Keiko. She doing just fine if people would just mind their business and stay out of hers. But I'm saying this because oftentimes the portrayal that we have of autistic people, they don't look nothing like Keiko. They're usually all the studies that were done on people who were studied were young white boys. And so that's why she doesn't always fit in, because as we're starting to learn more about neurodiversity, not just autism, not just autism, but all the other neurodivergencies. And I'm going to pause real quick here and just say that neurodivergence is an umbrella term for a whole bunch of things. It includes autism, ADD, ADHD, dyslexia, OCD, bipolar disorder. Did I say schizophrenia? I don't think I said that. What else? There are a bunch of things that basically is trying to say some people's brains are different from other people's. Different, not less. They're different, not less. And so when the diagnosis for autism has been around for about 100 years. And they used to call it Asperger's, but we don't say that anymore. I believe they struck that from the DSM-5 in 2013. And the reason why is because Hans Asperger's was a Nazi. And he was the one who was, and before anybody says it, was he an official member of the Nazi Party? No, he wasn't. But he was working with the Nazis. So as far as I am and Indiana Jones is concerned, that make you a Nazi. And he was the person that decided who got worked to death and who got sent to the death camps. So we don't give Nazis there's no countries for Nazis over here. We don't use that anymore because it's eugenics. And it's condescending and it's rude and it's not even in the DSM-5, which is how psychologists and therapists criteria to see if somebody is autistic or not. Keiko is definitely autistic for sure. And her brain is just fine. She works just fine. So I like this story because it presents us. Let me put this book down since it's all see-through. You see, you see in through it. It's magic. Um, Also, just to let you guys know, this book is available as an audiobook on Hoopla. I highly recommend that you do both. If you prefer to read the book, we've got plenty of books, but also the woman who is the narrator is phenomenal. And then you can, if you have trouble pronouncing the names or you just want to get the names right, she says them right for you, so you don't have to worry about that. Anywho, so back to the point. I really like this story because it presents us with someone who is autistic, but maybe we haven't seen somebody like this in our own lives before. I bet you guys have. I bet you know a Keiko. You have a Keiko in your life. You just don't know that Keiko's autistic or your Keiko's autistic. Your Keiko might not even know that she's autistic, but I bet you know somebody. Anywho, so just to point out a little bit of the themes, she has never really fit in, even when she was little. I'm looking through here to see if I can spot out some stuff. She just doesn't understand. Like there is in this part, in the beginning, Keiko was a young child. She's playing out at the park with her mom and a bunch of other little kids, and they find a dead bird. And so all the other kids are like freaked out. They're like, oh no, it's a dead bird. And Keiko runs to her mom. She's like, Mom, there's a dead bird. Let's eat it. And everybody's like, ew. And she does not understand why they're so ew. Why? Because her dad loves yakitori. Yakitori is a Japanese dish. And you can make it with chicken. And she's like, why is that not the same as the dead birds we be eating? I don't understand. Why are y'all so disgusted? And so she kind of embarrasses her mom because they clearly can't see why they clearly can see Keiko doesn't get it, because Keiko's like, what, you think that one bird's not going to be enough for dad? Well, let's kill some more. There's plenty of birds around here. She's just not getting it. All the other kids think she's weird and they kind of scooch away from her. So that's the beginning of Keiko's weird. Then in the book they start to go along a little bit more, and she is in kindergarten or first grade, and these two boys are fighting. They're just beating each other up, and they won't break it up. I don't know where the teacher is. The teacher went somewhere. Who knows? I don't know. And so everybody's like, do something. All the kids in the class by themselves. So Keiko does something. She gets like a shovel or something and she bangs them on the head. And then everybody freaks out on poor little Keiko. And she's like, what? Y'all told me to do something. I did something. I stopped them fighting. She wasn't trying to be violent. It just didn't click to her that maybe you shouldn't be hitting people in the head with hammers, or not hammers, with shovels and whatnot. But they were asking her to solve the problem, so she did. And the key point is that she solved the problem the same way those boys were, with violence. It made sense to her. That's how her brain works. Maybe the teacher shouldn't be leaving a bunch of little kids in the classroom by themselves to reenact Lord of the Flies. I don't know. We got a story about that too, but I digress. Anywho, so as time goes on, Keiko has a younger sister as well, and the family just realizes, hey, Keiko is just different. She's not like other people. Try as she might, she is not like other people. Her mother and her sister really work hard to help her integrate her dad too. They really try to be kind and nice and loving to her, because that's what the therapist suggests. They were like, look, because Keiko keeps getting in trouble at school. Like her mother has to keep going up there and being publicly embarrassed. That's a big thing in Japan too, especially older generations. Like Sayaka Murata is 41. I think she was born in 1979. So she's what, 40, early 40s. And so she also grew up in a very conservative home. Her dad was a judge. Her brother was supposed to be a judge or a doctor or something like that. Really conservative home, really conservative values. So she talks about how when she was growing up, she was pressured to go to school and to become a good wife so she could find a husband and get married. That kind of conservative stuff that I'm talking about. So anyway, Keiko's mom has to keep going up to the school and apologizing for her child's odd behavior. And she's being publicly shamed. Again, saving face in Japan is just a part of their culture. You save face. And so she can't do this because her daughter is odd or weird to everybody around her. So they take her to a therapist, and the therapist is like, look, Keiko doesn't understand some things. The best you can do is just be kind to her, be patient, and just be really loving. And so that's what they do. So anyway, time goes on. Keiko goes to university, and she starts noticing that she doesn't understand how to fit in with people. But if she observes, then she can, kind of skate by, kind of get them to leave her alone enough so that she can just go about her day. She's in college. She's needed to get a job. She gets a job at a convenience store. Hence the name convenience store woman. She ends up working there for 18 years. So when we meet her in the story, this book is only 163 pages. So the audiobook is about 3 hours. So that's how long it'll take. You can read this book in a day. So anyway, Keiko really enjoys the convenience store because for the first time in her life, she has a manual on how to interact with people. Everything from how to greet the customer, what specials you need to prompt to the customer, what you need to wear, what to stock, how to stock it, when to stock it, what sales are happening, what drinks they need to drink, what's going on in the areas around her so she can prepare the store to accommodate that. She knows when the lunch rush is. She knows when the breakfast lunch is, or in the dinner rush, and when people are taking breaks. She knows what type of food and convenience snacks each of the customers likes to get. And this is really helpful for somebody who doesn't pick up on social cues. A manual. Oops, sorry, y'all, I didn't mean to smack that microphone. Let me scooch this over so I don't do that again. Even picking up on a manual, just teaching her how to interact with people. And that's one thing that she says in the book, is that for the first time, that looks like a giant caterpillar, look, doesn't it? It's just the microphone, but it could be a caterpillar. Anyway, she mentions this in the book. The manual was the first time anybody had explained to her how to interact with people, even smiling. So, but she does get some pressure because in Japan, working at a convenience store is considered something like for job hoppers. Like, you're not going to be 36 working at a convenience store unless you are a married woman who just needs part-time work, or if you are a college student, or if you are a job hopper. And she has been there for 18 years. She shows up, she does her job, she's good at her job. She understands the trends of the neighborhood around her. She can do orders and things like that. But people are still kind of like, Keiko, why you still work at a convenience store? You're 36 years old. We soon learn that Keiko still keeps in contact with some of her friends from college. They too are wondering, hey Keiko, why you still work at that convenience store? Can't you get another job? So she starts talking to her sister, who has always kind of helped ease her way through social interactions that Keiko just does not understand. And her sister has always told her to tell them, well, that you're sick. You're not very strong, so you can't really take other jobs. And then people start to question that amongst her college friend group. And they're like, well, that's interesting because you're on your feet all day at that convenience store. If you're not so strong, why don't you get an office job or a desk job? Keiko has tried. Keiko has tried to do this, but the convenience store seems to be the only place that wants her. Well, she has said in the book that once she can get the interview, and once she gets the interview and they start talking to her, they notice something's a little off about her. And so she's tried, but she's like, yo, I have tried to get other jobs. I want other jobs, but they don't want me. So I'm staying where I know what to do, where I can be of service and be useful. And this is one of the main themes that you will see in this book is being of use, being of service. Once you have become identified as a broken part or obsolete, then society has no use for you and they eject you. And so Keiko is trying to avoid that. She wants to fly under the radar. She's trying to avoid being thought of as useless, as, I can't remember the exact wording that she says in here. Let me see if I can find it. I can't remember what she used, but it's a term that basically means that she's not of service, that she can't help people. What Keiko does to kind of fit in and basically build personas that people will like, is she kind of starts, copying or mimicking some of her coworkers. Not so much that they'll know that she's copying them and doesn't have her own style, because she is just trying to fit in. So, for instance, one of her coworkers, Keiko likes the way she dresses. So she will study where that woman gets her clothes from. She won't buy the exact same things. She'll buy stuff in her own style, maybe a nice color palette or whatever. And one of the lady, I cannot remember Miss Mama's name. What's her name? Yukari. No. Hold on. It might be Miho. They always call each other by their last names, and I cannot remember her coworker, who's one of the general managers, who she kind of copies just a little bit. I think that is Miss Yukari. We're gonna say it's Miss Yukari because I can't remember her name. I'm so sorry, y'all. Anyway. And so Miss Yukari is like, ooh, I like your bag, Keiko. And Keiko's like, oh, thank you. I got it from, and she mentioned some boutique. And she goes, yes, I love those clothes. I love that blogger. So Keiko is really having to study, because she's like, doesn't know what a woman around her age would like or wear. She knows what she would like and what she would like to wear. But she also knows that she has been getting in trouble since she was a little kid for not doing things the right way. And she gets tired of that, so she's just trying to do something to fit in. So that's what she does. There's a particular part in the book where she starts talking about how she notices the way different people talk and how they put certain inflections on words, and how she calls it infecting people. She says, she counts down, there's been 8 store managers since she's been working there, which is 18 years. And so Mr. Yagasuki, I think that's the man's name. Y'all, I'm making up people's names. Don't quote me on it. I hope you read the book, though, and you can say lovely. That was not that man's name. I'm sorry. You are correct. Let me see if I can find it real quick. Keiko's last name is Furukura. I can remember her, and not Shihara. That's the jerk she ends up with. Where is this man's name at? We're going to call him the store manager because I cannot remember his name. The store manager. Anyway, she notices how people start to talk like one another the more they are around each other, and she calls it infecting each other. And so also she's just picking up on their, like I said, their cadence, their intonation, and things like that. Why? Because Keiko speaks in a flat, monotone voice. And so when she is trying to say, sumimasen, that means excuse me. But what is the word that they say when they greet you? It is, and y'all forgive my Japanese, it's really rusty. Irashamase. Irashamase. That means hello, how are you? If you've ever been to a Japanese restaurant or to Japan itself, when you walk into the grocery store or to the convenience stores, that's what they say, and they greet you. They're happy to see you. They're happy to be there. And she has learned to do this inflection so that people know, hey, I am happy that you're here. Let me know if you need anything. We've got these things on special today. You might want to try it because it's delicious. Things like that. So she's because she has that manual, she's picked up on this. And it's helpful to her so that she knows how to interact with people. So she does this with everything. She does this from her clothing style, how she talks, when to go get up and when to go to work. She keeps her body and everything prepared and ready to work for the convenience store. She can even hear the convenience stores, like the jingle when people come into the door. She can hear the jingle and all, like the cash register running and the doors open and closing when she's away from work. It's like a lullaby almost. So anyway, those are, again, some of the things. Keiko is making personas for the people that she has to interact with so that they like her. So she has a convenience store persona for her coworkers. She has another one for her college friends. Especially when they start asking her why has she she goes to these parties and she meets up with them every few months or something like that. And they start asking her, have you ever been in love? And she's like, no. And they're like, oh my God, you've never been in love. Well, we have to fix that and blah, 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 blah. They didn't ever ask her if she was happy. They never asked her if she wanted to be in love. She doesn't feel like she's missing anything. There are some people who are never going to fall in love. They don't have the inclination, they don't have the wherewithal, and they don't feel like they're missing anything. Those that can be described but not limited to as asexuality. And Sayaka Murata, a lot of her characters in her books are asexual. And just because somebody is asexual doesn't mean that they don't have partners or that they don't get married or anything like that. It can mean that, but it doesn't only mean that. I just wanted to emphasize that so that I'm not spreading misinformation or anything like that, because that's another broad spectrum term that people like to throw around. It's an umbrella term, and there's all types of asexuality. So anyway, she's like, no, I haven't been in love before. She has no desire to even have sex. They talk about that in the book. She does not care. She doesn't want it. So leave her alone. But people think, oh no, here's Keiko. Let's fix her. They didn't even stop to consider if she was broken. She is not broken. There are so many people in the world like that. They just don't have that desire. It's almost like some people like chocolate. Some people don't. The people who do not like chocolate, I promise you, they're not missing out. They don't care. They'll eat something else. They will eat something else. So why are you trying to force them to eat chocolate? You eat the chocolate. You don't want to like it so much. Leave the people alone. Anywho, so fast forward a little bit. So we've talked about some themes. Keiko feeling like an outsider. Keiko building personalities for people around her so that they are comfortable. So they'll stop asking her personal questions and being all invasive. That goes from her shoes, her clothing, the way she talks, little things like that. Also, because she tends to like a routine, things haven't changed that much for her in a long time. So when they do change, people notice. And so her friends start noticing, oh, you're wearing brighter colors, or oh, you do this, or oh, you do that. And so sometimes she will talk to her sister and she'll be like, look, I keep telling them, they keep asking me, why am I still at the convenience store? And I don't know what else to tell them. Can you help me think of something else? Besides, I'm not strong or whatever. So her sister helps her do that and whatnot. Her sister really loves her and wants her to be happy. And so she does help her with these different excuses that help people kind of, stay out of her business. Anywho, they are training new employees at the convenience store. Smile Mart is the company that owns it, and they have a manual. So there is a gentleman, here he is, Shiraha. Shiraha is a young man who comes in and he thinks he knows everything. He doesn't need to be trained, and yada, 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 yada. So, of course, they give him over to Keiko, and Keiko's like, okay, so let's do this and this. He's like, I don't really need to be trained. He doesn't really want to work. This guy is a piece of work. He turns out to be a misogynist who has given up on life, doesn't want to work, wants to be catered to, and he hops from job to job to job to job. So Keiko's training him and teaching him how to do stuff, and her coworker, the assistant manager, doesn't like him. She keeps asking the manager, hey, can you talk to him? Because he doesn't listen to me. He thinks he knows everything, and he's just being a creep. So Siraha ends up getting fired because he was being a creep. He went to the convenience store to look for marriage. He wanted to, because it's the location of the store is a business district, and he was hoping to marry somebody who had more money so she could support him, basically, so he wouldn't have to work and do all that stuff. Anywho, so he ends up getting fired. Keiko is one time at her college friend's house, and they're all getting together, and they start, dipping into her business a little bit too much. And once they find out that Keiko's never had a boyfriend, never been in love, they're like, oh no, that will never do, da 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 da. And in order to keep the people out of her business, she decides, well, maybe I do need to get a boyfriend, so they'll leave me alone. Maybe that's what I need to do. And so she ends up inviting Siraha to come and live with her in her tiny one-bedroom apartment. Keiko doesn't even really like to eat. She doesn't like to cook. She doesn't like to eat. She calls it, when she heats up her food, she calls it heat treating. And so he's really mean to her too. He says that he would never want to have any kind of sexual relations with her. He calls her ugly. He says she's used goods. He said that her eggs are too old, and just really horrible stuff. And she treats him like a pet. This is where it gets interesting, because it seems like he's using her, but she is also using him too. And I'm like, you know what, Keiko? Do it, because he's a jerk and he was going to use you anyway. So she does. She ends up treating him like a pet. He sleeps in her bathtub, and she has to ask him to use her own bathtub. And he makes her go to like the coin operated showers or something like that, because he just doesn't want to work, wants to be on his tablet all day. And he says, you can't tell nobody that I live here. Don't do it. He says that if you do, then they're going to start trying to force us to be a part of the collective. And he means society. He has all these ideas about how society hasn't changed much since the Stone Ages, and that men are supposed to work, and men belong to the community, and even his babies that haven't been born belong to the community, and yada, 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 yada. He sounds like one of those red pill dudes that he's been listening to too much Andrew Tate or Kevin Samuels on YouTube or something. He's a piece of work. But he also has some insights, and Keiko's like, maybe he was right. I also kind of think that the way Murata Sakaya wrote this is that he's supposed to represent another type of person on the spectrum, maybe the male type of person on the spectrum, or maybe he's just supposed to be a misogynistic jerk, because this young man has similar characteristics of Keiko. He doesn't fit in. He is an oddball. He has an English degree, but he won't go out and get a job, mainly because he just wants to be left alone, kind of like Keiko. So she's like, hey, I got a solution to our problem. You move in. We don't have to tell people what we may or may not be doing in our bedroom, and maybe they'll leave us alone. And so he's like, sure, I'll do you the favor. He turns it and spins it. He's like, yeah, I'll help you out. I'll help. When he gets to her house, she has to tell him to take a bath. She's like, bro, you stink. You stink. And she's like, go in there and take a bath. And she washes his clothes and stuff. But he makes it seem like he's the one doing her a favor. As if, no, you're not. You're not doing anybody any favors. Anywho, so, and she does treat him like a pet. She's like, here's your feed. That's what she calls it. She doesn't even call it food. Here's your feed, little hamster boy. And so she, boils some vegetables and some chicken and gives it to him. And he's like, ew, is this all you ever make? He has nerve to complain about food he didn't purchase, didn't contribute any money to, didn't even cook. And he has nerve to complain. And she's like, yeah, this is what I cook. She's like, you're welcome to go get your own food if you want to. Do it. So, anywho, she's, back at work, and she's like, I need to pick up more shifts because now I got this pet to take care of. And her manager has to tell her, you can't work 7 days a week. I'd be breaking the law. Because she do it. She loves the convenience store. She likes being there. I think she really likes being there because it's the one place where she feels safe. Everybody deserves to feel safe. And she feels safe there. She has a manual. She knows what to do. And when things, break down or whatever, she knows what to do. There's rules. There's rules for everything. And if you break the rules, there's rules for that too. And that's what she needs. She needs a routine. And she thrives there. That's why she's been there for 18 years. So anyway, the manager is complaining to her about Siraha. That's that young man's name, Siraha. And how he has personal stuff there and he shouldn't have brought it. And he hadn't brought his check. And he keeps calling him, but Siraha ain't picking up the phone. Anywho, she's like, you want me to take it to him? And the manager's like, wait, what? And so she lets it slip that Saraha is staying with her. And what did she do that for? Everybody is in her business. Miss Assistant Store Manager, the store manager, the new Vietnamese guy, what is his name? Dat Nguyen, that's his name. And everything. Also, she called her sister when Saraha moved in, because she was excited. She just wanted to tell her sister, so maybe her sister could leave her alone too. And her sister was like, "What? You have a man? You living there?" She comes over to berate Saraha. Wait, yeah, Saraha. Um, she mentions it to her friend Miho. That's her friend Miho when she's over there, and they're like, "Oh my goodness, this is so great. We're so excited for you." And they were like, "Well, what does he do?" And she was like, "Well, he doesn't have a job. He mainly just loafs around and plays on his iPad all day." And they're like, "Oh, I knew somebody like that." And then they had a baby, and then he changed, and da 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 da. Ain't nobody saying nothing about this dude ain't got no job. He don't have any prospects. He don't have any gumption. Nobody's saying, they're just happy she has a partner. They don't care that he's a bum. They don't care that he's loafing off of her. They're like, "Oh, you can enter normal society now." So when the assistant store manager and the store manager realize that Saraha has moved in with Keiko, they're like, "Oh, you'll have to come out with drinks and bring Saraha too. Come out for drinks with us and blah blah blah." That's when Keiko realizes, wait a minute, I've been working here 18 years. Y'all been socializing without me. Y'all didn't want me to come for drinks, just me? This whole time, she a loyal, dependable worker, shows up, picks up extra shifts, knows about the stock and the clientele and the trends, and she realizes, you guys don't like me. Not enough to go out for drinks. You want to get in my business and be nosy, poor thing. Then she realizes, oh. So she's working really hard so that she doesn't become expendable. That's the word, expendable. That's the word I meant. She's working really hard so she doesn't become expendable because she doesn't want to not be at the convenience store. That's where she thrives. But she also doesn't like that they're in her business. And the assistant store manager, and then they're in the back. She can hear them laughing and giggling and talking about her basically. And she's like, "I don't understand why they're doing that. We got to sell these chicken skewers. We need to put the mineral water up front because it's a hot day today and people want to drink mineral water and all this stuff." They're not doing any of the greetings. So they would have morning meetings to hype themselves up, to talk about the daily specials, to do all the stuff that they're supposed to do because they need to run a convenience store. And she starts noticing, well, y'all are really interested in my life, and we are supposed to be convenience store workers. In Japanese, let me see how to say it. Konbini Nigen, it doesn't mean convenience store woman in Japanese. It means convenience store worker. And I think she did that on purpose because that is what they are. Everybody's equal. They're convenience store workers, except for the hierarchy of assistant store manager and assistant manager. But anyway, that's what it means. And so she's starting to get a little irritated. She's like, oh no. And so when she gets back home, she has to tell Saraha, look, I let this slip. And he's like, oh no, what did you do that for? Now they're going to start berating me. So Saraha's sister-in-law put a tracker on his iPad because, like I said, he is a layabout. He's a loaf. He's a misogynist. He's a good for nothing. And he is always jumping from apartment to apartment, roommates to roommates, not paying the rent. And then they have to go behind him and clean up his mess. And so she put a tracker on his iPad so when he wouldn't pick up the phone, she would know where he was. Keiko come home from work and she sees Saraha in a prostrate position like he's bowing because he's getting berated by his sister-in-law. And so Keiko's like, who are you? And she was like, well, who are you? And, they explain all this. And so then Saraha talks about how he has a plan, that they're going to get married soon. She's going to quit her job at the convenience store because she can't support both of them on that one little job and find a better job. Once she's established, he's going to do his online business. And once that takes off, they're going to start having babies. And then he's going to go out and get like a salaryman job, a corporate job. And so she is all like, oh my God, you two should not procreate. You guys are both weirdos and you shouldn't be having babies, yada, yada, yada. They don't listen to her. Well, they don't have a baby anyway. But so what ends up happening is Saraha is motivated to start looking through the help one. There. He's like, this is great since I'm not the one that actually has to go out and get the job. So he starts looking and, trying to get her job interviews and whatnot. And so she does end up quitting the convenience store job. And it's been about 2 weeks. And she's like, I don't know what to do. I don't know when to get up. I don't know what to eat. All she does is she gets up, she eats, and she goes back and goes to sleep. She's moved her futon into the closet so she can just eat and go back into her closet because she feels lost without the store, lost without her routine. And it's been 2 weeks. And so, but she does manage to land a job interview. So Keiko and Saraha are getting ready to go to the job interview. She's got her clothes on and everything, and they have about an hour, and they're headed there. And he goes, hold on, I need to go to the bathroom. And so she sees him go into a convenience store. And she was like, I need to go to the bathroom too. Let me go to the bathroom. So she goes in there to go to the bathroom. And as she walks in, she noticed that their display is all jacked up. She sees like there's somebody who's clearly in training. She has a name tag that says in training. And then the cashier who's working, who's training this other lady. So there's only 2 people. And she starts fixing the display, right? She was like, oh no, why are these seasonal chocolates here on the bottom? These are bestsellers. They sold really well 6 months ago. They need to be up here. So she starts rearranging it. Cashier's keeping an eye on her like, girl, what are you doing in this store? And she's like, and they need to restock these drinks. They need glass noodles because there's a lot of women in this district and women like to eat glass noodles. So she moves it. And as she does this, customers are coming in and they're like, oh, those chocolates are so good. I love them. Buys them. Oh, those glass noodles will go good with my buns tonight. Buys them. And then the cashier is looking at her like, girl, what are you doing? That would be like if one of y'all came in and just start moving stuff around on the library display. And I would be like, and if I was busy with a patron, I'd be like, excuse me, can I help you? What you doing? Anyhow, so what happens is Keiko points to her name badge or something to pretend like she's from corporate, and the lady's like, oh, okay. And so she rearranges all this stuff, and then the woman comes over to her and she starts saying, hey, you need to do this, this, and this. This will help your stuff sell better. You need to clean this, do this, and there's nose prints on the glass. When she walks into the convenience store, she said the convenience store started talking to her. She said it flowed through her body, and she could tell what the convenience store wanted. So she started giving the store what it wanted. And the lady who works there was like, thank you so much. I appreciate it. And she's like, I was so nervous because somebody called out sick and I had to train this new girl and things aren't going so great. And Keiko goes, no, you're doing just fine. I was just helping a little bit, really encouraging her and being really sweet. Then here comes Saraha, talking about, what are you doing? Snatches her and takes her outside. And he starts yelling at her. And when she was on her 2-week sabbatical, because Keiko didn't take no days off, like even if she was, maybe if she was sick or something like that. So she never took days off at the old store. So when she finally had 2 weeks off, she was lost. She didn't know what to do. And she's like, I don't know what to do if I'm not working at the convenience store. She basically says that she feeds herself enough and gets enough rest because her body belongs to the convenience store. That's me paraphrasing. That's not exactly what she said, but that's kind of what she said. Anywho, he gets mad. Saraha takes her out, and he's like, what are you doing? Oh, I said all that to say, Keiko was like, well, without the convenience store, I'm going to have to rely on animal instinct because I don't know what other instinct to follow, so that's what she does. So when she comes back into this convenience store, she hasn't been outside or anything for several weeks, and she just feels it like a rush, probably like a hit of morphine or something, or some other kind of substance that I probably shouldn't be talking about. But it hit, and she's like she came alive again. And so he's out there trying to tell her, hey, you ain't working at no convenience store. And she's like, you know what? She's like, Saraha, I'm not doing this. I'm a convenience store worker. I don't want to go for this other job. I don't want to have a baby with you. You need to go find somewhere else to live. And so he was like, you're not gonna win at this. You're damaged goods. Society don't like women like you. Blah 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 blah. Child, Miss Keiko called up that other place and was like, I am not coming in. I ain't doing that. And then she started looking for another job at a different convenience store. The end. Ba-ba-da-boom. It's not really the end, but the whole point of this, there is one part when she is talking to Saraha and she's explaining about her sister and she just doesn't understand. And she was like, it's like my sister is okay with having a normal sister, even though she has a lot of problems, as opposed to an abnormal sister who is just fine. And I want to emphasize that because, again, Keiko is on the spectrum. She is autistic, and so is Sayaka Murata. That's why this book was written so well, because she's writing about her own personal experiences. And that is the point that I just really think that the whole book revolves around. It was like, you would rather me be quote unquote normal, even though acting that way causes me so much strife and so many problems, than just accepting that I am quote unquote abnormal and I'm fine. There was nothing ever wrong with Keiko. Nothing other than the expectations that others placed upon her. Nobody ever asked her if she wanted children. Nobody ever asked her if she wanted to get married. Nobody ever asked her if she was happy. If they had, they would have realized she's perfectly happy working in a convenience store for the rest of her life. Is that your aspiration? Maybe not. It's not my aspiration, but it was hers, and she was doing just fine, and she wasn't bothering anybody. So, this is more than just a live and let live kind of thing. This is a Keiko has a different. Her brain works differently. Think of it as iPhones. Everybody, let's say everybody has an iPhone, and all the apps are made for iPhones. Keiko is an Android. That's why these social norms and things were not working for her, because iPhone apps don't work on Androids. iPhone apps don't work on Androids. And she was doing her best this whole time trying to make it work, doing her best to try to live up to society's expectations and be useful and a fulfilling member of society. But no matter how hard you try, iPhone apps do not work on Android phones. They just don't. And once you realize that, and you realize, oh, I'm not an iPhone, I'm an Android, maybe I should go get some Android apps. Once you start getting those Android apps, Keiko's Android app was the convenience store, then you can go about your life in the way that best suits you versus everybody else. And also, Sayaka Murata talks about how she tried to fit in and talk the way and dress the way she thought a cute woman, or it's cute kawaii woman would, and she made herself miserable. And she has written like 10, 12 other books. Let me see. She did, Convenience Store Woman, Breastfeeding, Silver Song. About 5 or 6, 7 books. All while working part-time at a convenience store. She clearly had other aspirations. But also, that's why this story is true too, because Sayaka Murata worked at a convenience store up until her fans made it impossible for her to keep working at a convenience store. But that wasn't her only aspiration. She only worked there part-time, and then she wrote. And she really, she said that she kept working there because she liked the idea of how it fit into her routine, and she just couldn't fathom just staying home and writing all day. So she didn't. She kept going back to that convenience store, even though she is like, she's 41 now, so she must have stopped probably. I don't know when she stopped working there. Anywho, I really like this book. Happy AAPI month too, by the way. That's part of the reason why I selected it, but it's also Mental Health Awareness Month too. And people who are on the spectrum, again, that is people who or people who are neurodivergent or neurodiverse, ADD, ADHD, autism, bipolar disorder, OCD, dyslexia, dyscalculia, dysgraphia, all of those umbrella term for a whole bunch of people. As we are learning more and more about these I don't want to quote and say disabilities, because it is disabling. It is incredibly disabling. But as we're learning more about these different disabilities, we start to realize that it presents differently in people who were women or men or non-binary people. Depending on your ethnic group or ethnicity, it might look different too. A lot of times when people hear the word autism, they think about those horrible commercials from the 80s that was like, autism's going to destroy your family and your life and your marriage and suck up all your finances. And they presented it as something that could be cured. It can't. It's a brain development. Like your brain is different from people who do not have autism. There is no cure. And to be quite honest, people who fall on that spectrum don't want to be cured. They want to be understood though. They we don't use the term high functioning and low functioning anymore because again that goes back to that old horrible Nazi Hans Asperger. And we don't talk about him because that's eugenics. That's eugenics. We're not finna go on that slippery slope. We just follow what Indiana Jones said about Nazis. You just punch them. Anyway, um, but a lot of times when people see spectrum, they think it goes from one point to the other, like this, like a straight. It is not. It's like a pie chart. It's like a pie chart with different sections of sensory overload, empathy, social cues. I say sensory overload, I mean sensory issues, all kind of different things. And depending on who you are, you might have a little bit more here or a little less or whatever. So it's not a straight line, it's a pie chart. And like it's individual for each person. It manifests differently in each person. I promise you, you know somebody who is neurodivergent. Even if they don't know it, you know somebody. It tends to run in families. Um, it tends to people who are neurodivergent tend to find each other and click and be friends because their brain recognizes something familiar, and they probably know that they're not going to be judged as harshly with other people who are neurodivergent. So anyway, I said all that to say, um, Sayaka Murata is autistic and Keiko is autistic, and they're both doing fine. They are both doing fine. Are there some people who do have high support needs? Absolutely, and they deserve to get it. Low support needs people still are struggling too, and that needs to be acknowledged. But they are different, not less. Different. And if Sayaka Murata writing all these books don't prove that to a lot of people, I don't know what will. And honestly, there really doesn't even need to be a test. You don't really have to prove anything. I hate that that is. I hate that that even came out of my mouth. First of all, but I hate that that is a thought process that people have to go through. What Sayaka Murata was doing when she's pretending to act like a nice, cute woman, it's called masking. She's putting on a mask so that she can be more acceptable to people. She put on a mask so that she could not get picked on and bullied and teased. It's a lot of work though wearing a mask. It's a lot of work when you cannot tell the mask from your real personality. That is what Keiko was doing when she would try to buy the clothes that a woman her age would buy. Cut her hair a certain way, have certain milestones checked off, even if she didn't want them. Even if she didn't want a husband, she went out and found a bum. Um, Even if she didn't want a baby, she was thinking about having one. I'm so glad she didn't. And so that's why books like this are important. They help you to expand your horizon and hopefully help you to open up your mind a little bit about the people around you in your community and how you interact with them. And how to accept people who are just different from you. I mean, my goodness, could you imagine if we are all the same? That'd be boring. Um, and some of y'all's favorite people are on some kind of spectrum or are neurodivergent. Some of the best inventions and games and stuff come from those kind of minds. So you need to accept the whole package. There would be no Einstein without neurodivergence. We wouldn't have Pokemon. We wouldn't have Sailor Moon. We wouldn't have, let's see what else, internet. I mean, a lot of it is everywhere. The people who think outside of the box, oftentimes, like I said, are on the spectrum, but we need them to think outside of the box because it helps us advance. We wouldn't have no Star Trek. We wouldn't have half the books we have, or the TV shows, or the inventions, or just regular everyday stuff. Anywho, I hope that y'all enjoyed this book. If you are interested, the library does have a couple of other of Sayaka Murata's books. We have her book called Aliens, where this little girl thinks she's an alien, and the little girl is also on the spectrum. I haven't read it, but I'm going to. I'll let y'all know what I think. Speaking of which, our next book is called The Monsters We Defy. And let me see what that lady's name is. Hold on a second, y'all, because I don't remember. I think it's something Penelope. It's a historical fiction. Hold on. Leslie Penelope. That's it. Okay, so the next book, the book that we will be reading in June, is by Leslie Penelope. It's called The Monsters We Defy. It's a historical fiction. It's a caper, y'all. It's set in the Harlem Renaissance era. And Clara Gibson is one of the main characters. She can see ghosts. She can talk to haints and haunts and things like that. She has a talent, and often people come to her for her talent to help them solve crimes or mysteries and little things like that. Well, she is tasked with a spirit to steal something back. It's kind of like Ocean's 11 set in Harlem, and there's a little mystery. It's a party. P for Purpose. It's a Purpose party. P for Purpose. It's a Purpose party. Yay! If you know that meme, let me know in the comments. You'll get extra points. Anyway, I read that book. It's phenomenal. I loved it. I know you're going to love it too. So remember to sign up for the newsletter because I'll be sending it out in a few days. And then I'll do the follow-up one with all the discussion questions and the interviews and things like that. And next time we'll have slides. We'll have all the technical difficulties and things worked out. I think we did okay though for I got it together in the end. But yeah, I hope y'all enjoyed the book. I hope that you will check out more books by Sayaka Murata. We do have them. She's a phenomenal writer. I thought this was a great book, and it's a quick read. So let me know what you think about it in the comment section. Thank you for spending a little bit of time with me today. I appreciate you, and I will see you next month when we read The Monsters We Defy by Leslie Penelope. See y'all then. Bye.